There are moments in life that don't scream betrayal, they whisper it. Mine began with a cough. It was soft at first, just a fragile sound, drifting through the walls of our small house at night. Then it grew deeper, rougher, until it sounded like she was tearing herself apart. Every time I heard it, guilt clawed at my chest. Because just a week before, I had told my husband, I can't handle her anymore. His mother. My mother-in-law. She's lonely, he said that night, rubbing his temples. She just wants to feel part of our home. I sighed, looking at the sink, piled high with dishes. She's part of our home, Imran. But she doesn't act like she is. She complains about the way I cook, the way I clean, even the way I speak to you. He was quiet for a while. Then he said, she's old, Sarah. Let her be. So I let her be. And that was my first mistake. We'd been married for 6 years when she moved in with us. My father-in-law had passed away suddenly, leaving her alone in that creaky old house on the edge of town. At first, I didn't mind. She arrived with tearful gratitude and a suitcase full of old photos. I tried my best. I made her tea the way she liked it, without sugar, and ironed her scarves when she went out to visit friends. For a while, it was peaceful. But slowly, the small criticisms began. She didn't like how much salt I used. She didn't like that I worked late. She didn't like that her son did laundry sometimes. That's a wife's duty, she'd say, smiling in that soft, but pointed, way only mothers-in-law can manage. Still, I tried to keep the peace. Because when you love someone, you learn to love their mother too. Or at least, you try. It was around that time that she started talking about her old house. It's too much work for me now, she said one evening while folding her shawl. The roof leaks, the neighbors are noisy. Maybe I should sell it. Imran looked at her thoughtfully. That's not a bad idea, Amma. You could use the money for yourself. Maybe travel or... She shook her head. No. I want to help you too. You've done so much for me. I smiled politely, but something inside me hesitated. That's sweet of you, Amma. But you should keep what's yours. You'll need it one day. She placed her wrinkled hand over mine. You're a good girl, Sarah. But we're family. What's mine is yours. Her voice was warm, reassuring, and I wanted to believe her. When the house sold 2 months later, she said she'd put the money in a shared account for emergencies. I didn't question it. If I had, maybe things would have turned out differently. Then came the night of her collapse. It was a Thursday. I remember because I had been frying onions when I heard her call out from her room. Beta. I ran to her and found her clutching her chest, pale and trembling. I shouted for Imran, and within minutes, we were rushing her to the hospital. My hands shook as I filled out the forms. After a few hours, the doctor came out. It's nothing serious, he said gently. Stress, perhaps. She just needs rest. Relief washed over me so fast, I almost cried. At home, she lay in bed, looking frail and quiet. I don't want to be a burden, she whispered. You're not, I said softly, tucking the blanket under her chin. We'll take care of you. From that day on, her life became a ritual of care. Morning porridge, warm compresses, herbal teas. She refused to eat unless I fed her myself. She insisted Imran sleep early so he wouldn't fall sick too. And every time she coughed, I dropped everything, my work, my plans, my peace, to check on her. I didn't notice that while I was taking care of her health, she was quietly taking something else. Something far more valuable. 3 months later, small things began to change. I'd go to the kitchen and find grocery money missing from the jar. I'd see strange bank messages on Imran's phone, small withdrawals he couldn't explain. When I asked him, he shrugged. Probably a card glitch. Don't worry, I'll call the bank. But he never did. Then one morning, she handed me a thick envelope. I paid the electricity bill, Beta. You were busy, so I took care of it. I opened the envelope later and found a receipt, but the bill was for 2 months ago. It didn't make sense. That night, when I asked her, she smiled faintly and said, You're always suspicious. Relax, Sarah. I'm not a thief. I wanted to apologize, but her words stung. Because that was the first time she said something that felt defensive. And guilt mixed with confusion in my chest, like poison I couldn't name. Then, one Saturday afternoon, the first real crack appeared. I was cleaning her room when I noticed her old leather purse lying half open. Inside was a bank passbook. I shouldn't have looked, I know that, but curiosity pulled me in. When I flipped through the pages, my heart dropped. There were withdrawals, large ones, almost every week. And then a transfer to a name I didn't recognize, Aisha Textiles Ltd. I froze. My fingers went cold. That was the name printed on a receipt I'd seen weeks ago in the trash. A fabric company. She wasn't just spending money, she was moving it. Somewhere I couldn't trace. That night, I sat across from Imran at dinner, watching him eat quietly. "Imran," I said softly, "how much money is in our joint account?" He looked up confused. "Why? Just tell me." He frowned, reached for his phone, and logged in. His face changed instantly. "What the? Sarah, did you make a transfer?" "No." He turned the screen toward me. The balance was half of what it used to be. I felt my stomach twist. "She said she'd moved the house money there," I whispered. Imran stared at me, realization dawning slowly, painfully. Then, without a word, he stood up and walked toward her room. I followed. She was sitting up, knitting something in her lap, the soft click of needles filling the air. "Amma," Imran said quietly, "where's the money from the joint account?" She looked up, blinking innocently. "What money?" "Our savings," I said, stepping forward. "Half of it is gone." Her hands stilled. Then she smiled. A small, polite smile that chilled me to the bone. "Oh, that," she said. "I used it for something good." Imran's voice hardened. "What do you mean, something good?" She set her knitting aside, folded her hands, and said calmly, "For business, Beta. I invested it." I stared at her in disbelief. "You invested? Without telling us?" She sighed, as if we were the unreasonable ones. "You're young. You don't understand. Money should not sleep in banks." My voice broke. "That wasn't just money, Amma. That was our future." Her expression didn't change. And in that moment, I realized she didn't see what she'd done as betrayal. She saw it as entitlement. Imran stood there frozen, his breath shallow. "Amma," he said softly, "you should have told us." Her face tightened. "Told you? Would you have let me? You two think I'm old, useless." I wanted to show you I could still make something of myself. I took a step closer, my voice shaking. "By taking our money? Pretending to be sick?" Her eyes flickered, just for a moment, with something sharp, almost defensive. Then she looked away. "I didn't pretend," she murmured. "I really wasn't feeling well." I could have believed that if I hadn't spent months watching her play the part of the fragile old woman so convincingly. Imran sank into the chair beside her bed, his hands clasped tightly together. "Amma, how much did you take?" She didn't answer. He repeated, more firmly, "How much?" She turned her face toward the window. "Enough to start something small. Don't worry, Beta. You'll get it back once it grows." Something in me snapped. "It's not about getting it back," I shouted. "It's about trust. You lied to us. You made me take care of you like a child while you were taking everything we had." Her lips trembled, but her eyes hardened. "Watch your tone. I am still your elder." Elder. That word felt heavy, weaponized. I wanted to scream, to ask how love could twist itself into something so cruel, but Imran's silence was louder than my anger. He just stood up and said quietly, "We'll talk about this tomorrow," and left the room. That night, we didn't speak. The air between us was thick, the kind of silence that hums with everything left unsaid. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying every moment of the last few months. Every cough, every trembling hand, every "Beta, I don't want to be a burden." All lies. And beneath the anger, there was something worse, shame. Because I had believed her. I had pitied her. I had loved her. The next morning, Imran went to the bank. He came home hours later, looking drained. "Sarah, it's bad," he said quietly. "She didn't just take from our account. She used our joint collateral to secure another loan." I blinked, trying to make sense of his words. "Collateral? What do you mean?" He handed me the papers. "She put up our savings certificate. It's tied to her business loan." My knees went weak. I sank into a chair. How is that even possible? He rubbed his face. Because she's a joint account holder. She had every right. Every right. Those two words hit like a slap. She hadn't stolen legally, she had stolen emotionally. That evening, when she came out of her room, she acted as if nothing had happened. She even asked what we wanted for dinner. Imran didn't answer. I couldn't even look at her. The next day, she started coughing again, the same rehearsed, gentle sound that used to make me run to her bedside. This time, I didn't move. She looked at me with wide eyes. You've changed, Beta. You don't care anymore. Something cold rose in my chest. No, Amma. I just finally see things clearly. Her face fell. For the first time, she looked smaller, not fragile, not weak, just human. A week passed. Then one morning, I got a call from an unknown number. Mrs. Imran, a man's voice asked. This is Hassan from Aisha Textiles. Your mother-in-law mentioned you'd handle her pending payments. I frowned. Payments? What payments? There's an outstanding balance of 850,000 taka for fabric and labor costs. My mouth went dry. I think you've mistaken me. He hesitated. Ma'am, we have your name listed on the documents. Signed by Sarah Rahman. The room spun. That's not my signature. That night, when Imran came home, I told him everything. He stared at me stunned. She forged your signature? I nodded. To make it look like I'm her partner. He closed his eyes, whispering a prayer under his breath. Ya Allah. I could see the war in his face, anger and love, duty and disbelief. He was a son torn between blood and truth. Finally, he stood up. We're going to the warehouse tomorrow. The next morning, we drove to the address listed on the invoice. The warehouse was small but bustling, women sewing uniforms, machines humming. A tall man greeted us nervously. You must be Madam's family. She hasn't come in 3 days. Imran's brow furrowed. She owns this place? The man nodded. Yes, ma'am runs everything. We were expecting payment today. He gestured toward a stack of unfinished garments. If we don't get the balance soon, we'll have to stop production. I looked around at the boxes, the invoices, the workers, and felt a strange mixture of fury and sadness. She had tried to build something, but she had done it with stolen bricks. That evening, we came home to find her sitting in the living room, sipping tea. Imran placed the papers on the table. Amma, we went to your factory. She froze. They said you owe money, that you used Sarah's name to sign contracts. Why? Her lips parted, but no sound came. I stepped closer. Why, Amma? Finally, she whispered, because they wouldn't take me seriously otherwise. They said I needed a younger partner. A woman with education. Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't mean to hurt you, Beta. I just wanted to prove I could still do something. All my life, people have called me weak. I wanted to be respected. Her voice cracked, and for a fleeting moment, I saw the frightened woman beneath all her schemes. But pity is a dangerous thing when it follows betrayal. I swallowed hard. Respect isn't built by stealing from the people who love you. She covered her face and began to cry quiet, trembling sobs that echoed through the room. Imran turned away, tears in his own eyes. That night, none of us spoke. The following week, the calls started again. Debt collectors, suppliers, partners. We were drowning in the mess she'd created. One afternoon, she came to my door with a folded paper. It's the deed, she said softly. To my old house. Sell it. Pay off what I owe. I took the paper without a word, because there were no more words left to give. The day her old house sold, I didn't go to the bank with Imran. I stayed home, cleaning the kitchen, scrubbing away months of dust and resentment. When he came back, he handed me the deposit slip. It's done, he said. Most of the debt is cleared. I nodded. And her? She's quiet. I think she knows what she's lost. I looked around our small, quiet home, the same one that used to echo with her coughs, her laughter, her lies. Now it was silent, peaceful, but not the kind of peace that comes from joy, the kind that comes from exhaustion. That night, I found her in her room, packing her shawls into a small suitcase. Where will you go? I asked. She didn't meet my eyes. To my sister's. She said she'll take me in for a while. I wanted to stop her. To say something kind. but nothing came out. So I just stood there, watching her zip the bag, the sound of it sharp, final, like the closing of a chapter. The morning she left, the sky was heavy with rain. I watched from the doorway as she struggled to lift her small suitcase down the front steps. Imran moved instinctively to help her, but she waved him off. "No, Beta. Let me do it myself." Her voice was quiet, thin, almost brittle, but for the first time, there was no pretense in it. No guilt, no manipulation, just an old woman carrying the weight of her own choices. When the rickshaw pulled away, she didn't look back. And for the first time in months, the house felt empty, truly empty. Not peaceful. Not yet. Just hollow. In the days that followed, we fell into a strange rhythm. Imran would go to work early, come home late, and barely speak. I busied myself with everything: cleaning, rearranging, baking, anything that kept my mind from wandering. But every quiet moment brought her back. The smell of her rose-scented lotion that still lingered in the hallway. Her old slippers by the shoe rack. The faint impression of her favorite cushion on the couch. Grief is strange that way. It doesn't only come when someone dies. Sometimes it comes when someone is still alive, but no longer the person you thought they were. 2 weeks later, the first ripple of consequence arrived. Imran was at work when I got a call from the bank. "Mrs. Rahman," the manager said carefully, "we need to discuss an urgent matter regarding the previous loan connected to your joint account." I froze. "What matter?" "There appears to be an unpaid balance and late fees. It seems Mrs. Begum's business loan hasn't been formally closed. Legally, you and your husband remain secondary guarantors." My throat tightened. "But we cleared the debts." "Yes," he replied, "but her partner account remains active. She hasn't signed the closure documents." Partner account. I knew exactly what that meant. The account opened under my name. Even after everything, her deception was still alive on paper. That evening, when Imran came home, I told him what the bank said. He rubbed his temples, sighing deeply. "I'll go tomorrow. Maybe they can remove your name." But the next morning, the problem grew bigger. He called from the bank, voice low and tense. "Sarah, they said there's been activity. Someone withdrew a small amount, 5,000 taka, from that business account last week." My pulse quickened. "She's still using it?" "I don't know," he said. "But if she is, this could get serious. We might have to file a report." I closed my eyes. The thought of dragging her name, our family name, through the police system made my stomach turn. "Imran," I said softly, "don't file anything yet. Let me talk to her first." He hesitated. "You think she'll tell you the truth?" "No," I admitted. "But I need to look her in the eyes one more time." The next day, I went to her sister's house. The narrow lane was lined with bougainvillea, their pink petals scattered like quiet confessions across the dusty ground. Her sister, Perveen, opened the door. She looked surprised to see me. "Sarah?" "Oh, dear, come in." Inside, the air smelled of turmeric and soap. "She's in the courtyard," Perveen said softly. "But she's not well." I stepped into the small open space, and there she was. Sitting on a wooden charpoy, sunlight pooling around her thin frame. Her hair was silver now, her hands shaking slightly as she sipped tea from a chipped cup. When she saw me, her eyes widened. "Sarah." I sat down beside her. "You've been using the business account." Her cup rattled slightly. I needed money for medicine." I took a deep breath. "You could have asked." She gave a weak laugh. "Would you have said yes?" Her words stung because they were true. "I didn't come here to fight," I said softly. "But you need to close that account, Alma. It's still under my name. The bank is calling." She nodded slowly, then whispered, "I'll sign whatever you need." I handed her the papers. Her hands trembled as she wrote her name, each letter small and uneven. When she was done, she looked up at me with tears brimming in her eyes. "Do you hate me, Sarah?" I swallowed hard. "I don't know. Some days I do. Other days, I just feel tired." She nodded, a faint smile crossing her lips. "Tired means you've loved deeply." For the first time, I saw her not as my husband's mother, not as the woman who lied, but as a person flawed, desperate, and heartbreakingly human. After that day, things began to settle. We officially closed all the accounts. The bank confirmed we were clear. Word spread quietly among relatives, whispers about what she'd done. Some pitied her, others judged us for abandoning an old woman. At family gatherings, people would glance at me, their smiles polite but eyes curious. The public consequence wasn't scandal, it was silence. The kind that follows you like a shadow. But I learned to stop explaining. You don't know anyone your pain's full story. Months passed. One evening, I found Imran standing by the window, looking out at the rain. I miss her sometimes, he said quietly. Even after everything. I know, I replied. I do too. He turned to me, his eyes tired. Do you ever think we could forgive her completely? I thought for a long moment before answering. I don't think forgiveness is a door that stays open or closed. It's more like a window. Sometimes you let the light in, sometimes you shut it when it hurts too much. He smiled faintly. You always find a way to make things sound poetic. I laughed softly. Maybe that's my way of surviving. A few months later, Perveen called. She's been asking about you, she said gently. She's weaker now. She might not have long. I went that weekend. When I saw her, I almost didn't recognize her, her skin pale, her voice barely a whisper. But when she saw me, her eyes lit up. Sarah, she murmured. You came. I held her hand, fragile and cold. Always. She looked at me for a long time, as if searching for something she'd lost years ago. Then she said, you were the daughter I never had. I just didn't know how to love you right. Tears filled my eyes. You don't need to say anything. But she shook her head weakly. Yes, I do. I was wrong. I thought I was proving my worth. I didn't see that I was destroying yours. She smiled faintly. You have a kind heart, Sarah. Don't let it harden. I stayed until she fell asleep. When I left, I knew it was the last time I'd see her. A week later, she passed away in her sleep. Imran didn't cry at the funeral. He just stood quietly, holding my hand, staring at the simple wooden coffin. As the prayers ended and people began to leave, he whispered, she finally found her peace. And I realized maybe we had too. After the funeral, the house felt different again. Not empty, but lighter, as if all the tension, all the hidden guilt, had finally drifted out through the open windows with the last of the incense smoke. For a few days, we had visitors, relatives bringing trays of food, neighbors offering quiet condolences, people who said kind things they didn't really mean. Then they stopped coming, and silence settled back over our lives. Imran threw himself into work. I returned to my teaching job, but something inside me had shifted. Every time I spoke to my students about trust or responsibility, I could feel her shadow in the back of my mind, a reminder that love without boundaries is not kindness. It's surrender. One evening, about a month after the funeral, I received a call from her lawyer. He asked if I could come by the office. When I arrived, Imran was already there, looking puzzled. The lawyer handed me a sealed envelope with my name written on it in her handwriting. She asked that this be given to you personally, he said. I opened it slowly. Inside was a short letter written in shaky blue ink. Sarah, I know I left too many wounds and too few apologies. You may never understand why I did what I did, but maybe this will help you see what I couldn't say. Inside the box at the bottom of my old wardrobe is something that belongs to you. Forgive me if you can. Shahana Begum. The lawyer slid a small metal key across the desk. This is for the box she mentioned. That night, when Imran and I went back to her old room, everything felt frozen in time. Her perfume still lingered faintly, and the curtain she used to pull halfway open every morning still hung unevenly. We found the wooden box easily, small, carved with faded patterns of vines and flowers. Inside, wrapped in a piece of her old silk scarf, was a file of papers and a simple gold chain. The file contained property documents, not the ones we had sold. It was for a small plot of land outside Dhaka, still registered in her name. On the back of the last page, she had written in pen, "For Sarah, for the home I took away, may you build your own." The gold chain was delicate, but I recognized the pendant instantly. It was her wedding locket, the one she used to wear every day. I stared at it, feeling tears rise before I even understood why. She had lied, yes. She had hurt us deeply. But this was her way of giving back what she could in the only language she knew, silence and small gestures. Imran put his arm around me. "She must have bought it before everything fell apart," he murmured. I nodded, unable to speak. The next morning, I went to the land office. It was real, not much, but enough to build something small. For weeks, I thought about selling it. Then one night, as I stood by the balcony watching the city lights, I realized I didn't want to sell it at all. I wanted to build there. Not a business. Not an investment. A small weekend home. A place that was mine. Imran supported the idea instantly. "Let's call it Shauna Villa," he said, half smiling. I hesitated. "You really think she deserves that?" He nodded slowly. "Maybe not in the way people think. But names are not for them, they're for us. It's our way of remembering the lesson, not just the pain." He was right. So we built it, brick by brick, with what little money we had left and a lot of borrowed patience. It wasn't fancy, just a single-story house with 2 rooms and a small veranda. The first night we stayed there, I sat outside, listening to the crickets and the distant hum of the highway. The air smelled of rain and wet earth. And for the first time since everything happened, I felt a quiet kind of peace. Months turned into a year. The little house became our escape from the noise of the city, a place to breathe. Sometimes, Imran's cousins would visit, bringing laughter and stories. Other times, it was just us sitting under the stars, remembering the people who'd shaped us in ways we never expected. It wasn't forgiveness that built that house. It was acceptance. I learned that forgiveness doesn't always mean letting someone back in. Sometimes, it means closing the door gently and choosing to live with light instead of resentment. One day, while sorting through old photographs, I found one of her, younger, smiling, holding a baby Imran in her arms. Her eyes were bright, full of pride and tenderness. It struck me then. She had loved fiercely, just clumsily. Her love came wrapped in control, in fear, in desperate attempts to matter. And maybe that was her tragedy, not that she was cruel, but that she didn't know another way to be seen. So I placed that photo in a frame and set it on the shelf in the new house, not as a reminder of betrayal, but as a symbol of imperfection. Because we're all someone's villain in one story and someone's healer in another. A year after her death, on the day that would have been her birthday, I lit a small candle on the veranda. Imran stood beside me, holding 2 cups of tea. "For her?" he asked. "For her," I said softly. The wind was gentle that night. The candle flickered, but didn't go out. We sat there for a long time, drinking our tea, saying nothing. The silence didn't hurt anymore. It just felt full. That's how healing really happens, not in grand apologies or perfect endings, but in small, ordinary moments where pain turns into understanding. I didn't rebuild the life I lost. I built something better, something mine. And maybe that's what she wanted for me all along. Sometimes, the people who hurt us the most are the ones who once tucked us into bed, who called us beta, who made our favorite tea when we were sick. And that's what makes their betrayal so heavy. It isn't just about what they did. It's about who they were to us. When I look back now, I don't see a thief or a liar. I see a woman who was terrified of fading away, who clung to control because she didn't know how else to hold on to love. And while her choices broke our hearts, they also forced me to find my strength, the kind that doesn't shout, but simply stands tall in the quiet. You see, forgiveness doesn't always mean saying, "It's okay." Because sometimes it's not. Sometimes, forgiveness is sitting with the memory until it loses its power to hurt you. It's waking up one morning, realizing the anger is gone, and not even knowing when it left. That's what healing felt like for me, slow, steady, like dawn creeping across a window. No fireworks, no grand revelation. Just peace, the kind you earn one breath at a time. I didn't rebuild the house she sold, and I didn't reclaim the money she lost. But I rebuilt my voice. I rebuilt my boundaries. I rebuilt the woman I had almost forgotten how to be. And in doing that, I discovered something I wish she had learned too, that self-worth isn't something you prove to others. It's something you protect within yourself. When I stand on the porch of that little house now, the one I named Shauna Villa, I sometimes whisper her name into the wind. Not as a curse, but as a prayer. Because despite everything, I hope she finally found the peace she spent her whole life chasing in all the wrong places. And maybe that's what all of us are doing, in our own way, trying to be seen, to be valued, to matter. Some of us build it with honesty, others with mistakes. But in the end, we're all just human, learning how to love without losing ourselves. Tell me, if someone you trusted betrayed you but later tried to make amends, would you let them back into your life? Or would you forgive them quietly and move on? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if my story touched something in you tonight, if it reminded you of someone, or helped you breathe a little easier through your own pain, then don't forget to subscribe. Because sometimes, the stories we share are the only bridges that lead us out of the dark. Until next time, take care of your heart. And take care of your peace.